Catch a wave and you're sitting on top of the world.
The theory behind an underwriting wave is simple. Bundle your unsold inventory, price it so that individual spot rates are low but package prices are high, and sell big chunks of inventory instead of bits and pieces. Hi, I'm Ron Cook, founder of Underwriting Wave. One of the most common concerns I hear about underwriting waves is the fear that doing one will reduce the station's spot rate. It's an understandable concern, but it's not an accurate one. Here's why. Most stations are able to sell a portion of their first-class seats for a respectable spot rate. Morning Edition and All Things Considered on NPR and on PBS, a handful of shows like Downton Abbey and Antiques Roadshow. When they talk about their spot rates, they're usually only talking about those spots. They've worked hard to increase rates around those programs, and they don't want to give up their game. It's easy to forget that most stations only sell about half of their total avails, even around their best programs. Many stations only sell 10 or 20% of their total avails. In reality, that's what kills both their spot rates and their revenue. An airline could never maximize revenue by selling only half of its first-class seats and none of its coach seats. Likewise, public broadcasters can never maximize revenue by only selling half of their avails around Morning Edition and Downton Abbey. To see how an underwriting wave solves that problem, let's take a look at a typical NPR station's revenue. I've simplified it a bit for the sake of clarity, but it's not far off. When I do an analysis of the stations I work with, I ask them for a list of their top 10 clients, the amount each client spends, and how many spots they get in return. In this example, the two top sponsors pay $25,000 a year. Another couple of sponsors pay $20,000 a year, and the bottom half a dozen range from $15,000 down to $10,000. The number of spots ranges from 400 up to 1,500. Pretty much all of the spots are in drive time. The number of spots in other day parts was so small that I just left it out entirely. Spot rates range from $25 on the high end to $15 on the low end. Monthly spending, the total price divided by the number of months that the spot airs, ranges from a little over $2,000 down to about $900. When we do the math, we see that the top 10 clients consume 8,650 spots in drive time, and the weighted average spot rate they pay is $20.75. That's how much clients are currently willing to pay for a first-class seat on this station. First class meaning guaranteed placements in drive time. The overall revenue picture looks like this. The station's total net cash underwriting revenue is $350,000. The top 10 clients generate $167,000 of that. So the top 10 clients generate 47% of the revenue. It's not uncommon at all to have the top 10 clients generate half of a station's revenue or more. In fact, a number of stations don't even have 10 sponsors. Now let's look at the average spot rate differently. We've already established that the average first-class spot rate is $20.75. But what's the station's average spot rate if we add in all of the unsold spots? I've split the airtime into 4 day parts: morning drive, midday, afternoon drive, and evening. Morning drive goes from 5 o'clock until 10, so there are 5 hours in that day part. There are 12 avails per hour, which means that there are 420 avails per week. Multiply that by 52 weeks and you get 21,840 annual avails. There are about 11,000 avails sold, including those that are sold to clients not among the top 10, which leaves about 11,000 annual unsold avails. And there you have the story of a typical station. About half of its best avails are sold at about the same rate. The rest don't sell at all. When we run the numbers across all of the day parts, we find there are 19 sellable hours of programming per day, about 75,000 total avails per year, and about 50,000 annual unsold avails. So, what's the average spot rate now? If you divide 350,000 by 75,000 total avails, you get an average spot rate of $4.66. That includes zeros for all of the unsold spots. So the station's 10 best clients are willing to pay $20.75 for a first-class seat in drive time. But because all of the coach seats are flying empty, the average spot rate across the station is just $4.66. That's a pretty sobering way to look at underwriting, isn't it? Here's something even more sobering. This station is actually doing pretty well. I've seen a lot of stations with average spot rates in the range of $1.50 to maybe $2. Let's try looking at the underwriting picture in a different way. What happens if we focus on revenue instead of focusing on the spot rate? Because in the end, what we all really want is more revenue, right? Suppose that we want to increase revenue by $150,000. The typical approach would be to hire another rep or two and send them out to sell more first-class seats at $25 a piece. That approach almost always fails. And one big reason it fails is because most stations have already signed the local sponsors who are willing to pay first-class prices for first-class seats. That's the low-hanging fruit that every sales rep goes after first. An underwriting wave takes a different approach. We do what an airline would do. We say you have 50,000 unsold seats. Nobody is willing to pay first-class rates for them. Let's find a price that coach flyers are willing to pay and sell a whole bunch of seats to them. Here's how we do that. We know how much top sponsors are willing to spend per month. At this station, 6 of the top 10 sponsors spend about $1,000 to $1,250 a month. A couple spend $1,500 a month, and a couple more spend $2,000 a month. If 10 sponsors already pay that much, another 10 are likely to pay that much if we can put together the right value proposition. If we can add 10 more sponsors at the same monthly price points, it will add $156,000 to our revenue and increase total revenue by 45%. So let's build a $2,000 a month package designed to attract sponsors who have $2,000 a month to spend, but who won't pay first-class rates. We have 50,000 unsold spots to work with. When we break them into day parts, we find that 11,000 are in morning drive, 21,000 are in midday, 6,000 are in afternoon drive, and the remaining 12,000 are in the evening. If we slice those avails up into 15 equal pieces, each slice would have 3,325 annual spots. Each of those 15 pieces would have 60 spots per month in morning drive. If those spots are rotated randomly throughout the morning drive hours, each spot will reach an average of 5,000 listeners. Midday will have 115 spots and 2,500 listeners, afternoon drive 35 monthly spots and 4,500 listeners, and evening 65 spots averaging 1,000 listeners. The package will yield 275 spots a month, and it will spread those spots throughout the program schedule. Pricing it is pretty simple. We take the $2,000 target price, spread it over the package, and price each spot according to the number of listeners it will deliver. We do a little math, and this is how it shakes out. If we price the evening spots at $2.47, the afternoon drive spots will sell for $11.12, the midday spots for $6.18, and morning drive spots for $12.35. Multiply the number of spots by the spot rate, and you get the monthly price for each day part. Add up all of the day parts, and you get the total monthly price, $2,000. Now, let's look at what clients will get for their $2,000. They'll get 60 spots a month in morning drive, each of which will make about 5,000 impressions on listeners. Combined, those 60 spots will yield 300,000 impressions on the morning drive audience. Run the numbers for the rest of the day parts the same way, and you find that we now have a package that will yield 810,000 impressions a month for $2,000. Divide the cost by the number of impressions, and the cost per 1,000 impressions is $2.47. And it's the same in every day part because we've priced each spot according to how many people are likely to hear it. Now, think of the total value proposition. We just created a package that will yield more than 800,000 impressions a month on a very well-educated, affluent, and hard-to-reach audience. The sponsor will reach everyone who listens to the station, whether they listen during morning drive or just on the weekends. And over the course of a full year, that package will yield 3,300 spots and nearly 10 million impressions. And it will only cost the sponsor $2.47 to reach 1,000 people, no matter when the spot airs. Think of that from a buyer's perspective. Doesn't that sound like a terrific value proposition? So, would the spot rate collapse? Let's see. Remember, our objective is to sell 10 Underwriting Wave packages, 2 at $2,000 a month, 2 at $1,500 a month, and 6 at $1,000 a month. The smaller packages will be less generous, but the same principles apply. Let's compare the before and after using the current top 10 sponsors and the expected Wave revenue. The numbers will be a bit skewed because there are more than 10 total sponsors, but we don't know their contract specifics, so let's go with what we do know. The top 10 are spending $167,000 for drive time spots. Wave clients will spend $92,200. Combined, that's $259,200. Adding the Wave increases drive time revenue by 55%. Top 10 clients consume 8,650 drive time avails. Wave clients will consume 6,720 drive time avails. So 78% more avails will be sold. That's important because we want the law of supply and demand to eventually work in our favor, and we can only do that by tightening up supply and increasing demand. The top 10 weighted average spot rate for sold spots is $20.75. For the Wave, it's $13.72. The combined weighted average sold spot rate is $16.86. So if you only consider the spots that are sold, the spot rate appears to drop by 19%. But that's not the way that averages work. To calculate an average, you have to include all of the opportunities. There are 35,000 total avails in drive time. If we calculate the overall average drive time spot rate for top 10 clients, it's $4.77. For Wave clients, it's $2.63. But when you combine the two, the overall average rate jumps to $7.40, a gain of 55%. Notice, when your revenue goes up 55%, your overall average spot rate goes up 55% as well. It is impossible to separate one from the other. Finally, drive time monthly spending by top 10 clients is $11,833. For Wave clients, it's expected to be $7,681. Combined, drive time will now yield nearly $20,000 per month from those 20 clients, a 65% improvement over the top 10 alone. Here's a before and after look at underwriting revenue as a whole, not just drive time. Total station revenue is currently $350,000. After the Wave, it should jump to $506,000, a 45% increase. The overall average spot rate, $350,000 in revenue divided by 75,000 total avails, is currently $4.66. After the Wave, that number jumps to $6.74. The real average spot rate increases by the same percentage that total revenue increases. After I go through this explanation, a lot of stations say, well, Ron, that makes sense, but won't my first-class clients be jealous? I don't want to upset them by selling a drive time spot for less than they pay. My answer is simply this. I fly a lot, and I have never seen the people in first class look over their shoulders to see if there is anything to envy in coach. People who fly coach pay less and occasionally get upgraded to first class. Clients who currently pay top dollar for your best time slots don't care if someone who flies coach most of the time occasionally gets a seat in first class, and they never ask other people in first class how much they paid for their ticket. So, how do you maximize underwriting revenue? You sell out your entire inventory, not just your first class seats. You remember that some people will only pay coach fares. And most importantly, you sell every single avail for whatever the market will bear. I try to make Underwriting Waves a zero-risk proposition. I analyze your inventory, suggest packages and pricing, create the presentation, and travel in at my own expense and give the presentations. If you make nothing, it costs you nothing. The station invites potential sponsors, closes the deals, reimburses my travel expenses after the first deal closes, and pays me a standard agency commission on the revenue as the cash flows to the station. I was a public broadcasting sales manager and rep for 10 years. Believe me, I know how tough it is. I developed the Underwriting Wave to enable a small sales staff to make big money, and it's working in large and small markets all over the country. I'd love to help you pop some more revenue. Just shoot me an email or give me a call and we can get started. Thanks.
Catch a wave, you'll be sitting on top of the Catch a wave, you'll be sitting on top of the